and I'll get out of your way for most of this, but what I wanted to have you on today was to talk about the cruise because you've been responsible for putting that together. But I also wanted to, to kind of go from talking about that into, why marketing isn't so important. Like, I think it's arguably, I mean, you know me, Grady, I'm a sales guy. So I think sales is the most important skill to have, but I think marketing is a very close second. And I think a lot of people would argue that marketing is more important. And you can't really have one without the other. So I'd love for you to talk about, kind of the cruise, how you're approaching it, how you're using it to, help recruit new agents, get existing agents excited. And then just anything you have to share with people that, are on this call that are valuable takeaways for how they become better marketers, of themselves, of their business, of whatever they're doing, but to become more prolific marketers will make them a ton of money. So I'll step out of your way. I'll be here to bounce stuff off if you need me, but I appreciate you getting on, dude.
Well, I appreciate you, Zach, as always, all you do for your team, for the company, for, your family. It's a whole new level of responsibility each and every day that, you're like, hey, I'll get married and then we'll have kids and then I'll still have to run this business, right? Like, so for everyone out there that's juggling life and progressing at the same time, welcome to business, right? But if others have done it, you can do it. And it's just disciplining yourself and putting yourself in a position where you're eradicating things that aren't speeding your goals, and you only focus on things that do. And whether that's health or whether that's personal development, or mostly if that's making dials to make sales, all things are feeding you to get you to become the person, the best version that you're trying to become. So, but to talk about the cruise, to selfishly say, I'm just excited about talking about something new, right? Because I mean, if you've been with us any amount of time, we talk about a lot of the same things. Let's dial, 300 dials a dial day, book our 30 appointments, present 20, close 10, repeat. And I love all that, right? People making insane money here, producer bonuses, renewals, day one, BP bonuses. I mean, all these great things. And I think that as a company, we've done the best job in the industry of helping people make the most amount of money if they want to work hard for it, right? FFL is the best place for people who want to work hard to get paid very well. Most people don't want to work very hard, so in turn, they don't get paid very well. But those that do want to work very hard can get paid very, very well here. And we don't have like a income report statement that we print because you're all 1099 entrepreneurs. But I would put our numbers against anyone out there, and and that's why you're here, right? Because you get paid very well and all the wonderful things. But in the most things in life, humans crave connection, right? I'm reading a lot of parenting books right now, Zach, because I am a dad of 4, and I thought you just kind of like yell loud and put them in timeout and like they'll just get better eventually, right? And the reality though is they don't. They just, they look to you as someone who's their number one most important person, but also they will bottle up and they'll kind of get fearful about what's happening. Why is dad yelling at me if he's the one who loves and supposed to take care of me? And one of the concepts of like when your child is like acting out of sorts is connect and redirect, right? So you get down their level, you hug them, put a hand on them, calm them down, and then you redirect and talk about something else to move them off whatever is frustrating them. And so I think that, maybe utilizing those parenting concepts within business is looking in the sense that as a company, we've done a very good job of helping people make money, but as a company, we're very disconnected, right? There's Mark's group and Andrew's got his thing and you got a thing and I got a thing and Ina Hayden got a thing and Ivan's got a thing and Steve Giordano's got a thing and Vivian's got a thing. We all have these things, right? And Sean kind of oversees and doesn't want to ruffle feathers because we want everyone to kind of grow and evolve as their groups. But one of the things that I think most people enjoy is being recognized, right? That's always an action, a common thread that we beat the drum on from early on in our company. Has said, recognize the actions you want repeated, right? Don't put people on leaderboards who made 2 sales, right? Don't put people on leaderboards if they sell 9 families a month, right? And so in that mindset, like what we want repeated is high production. Why? Because we know they're going to live better. We know the clients are going to get serviced better. We know the leads are going to get taken care of. We know they're good examples as far as trainers. We know they know how to get people started when they go to start to build agencies. So how do we take this instead of just throwing more money at them and doubling a bonus that they made 30, but they get a $500 bonus. Now they're going to get 1,000. That's fine, right? Who doesn't want more money? But the concept of the cruise for all of you guys, and I know many of you are promoting it, and I've seen Easton's marketing, like who would have thought Easton's videos were like, Easton's kicking butt, right? I was loving it. I'm like, FFL Disruptions, just, they got all these cool videos. So in that mindset, like for all of you out there, whether you're brand new, newish, getting started, growing, leading, IPO office, all these things is like, how do I put myself in a position where I can get my group and get something fun that then accomplishes our goals, which is connect, right? And then building culture. And then also in the same time, recognizing actions we want repeated. And that's where this cruise concept came up, that it's something fun, something that is there that people can work towards. They earn, it's basically free except their flight. And corporate still, my original pitch was, let's reallocate the $500 a month, and turn it towards something that we can bring people together. And Sean goes, no, we're going to pay the bonuses still, and we're going to cover the entire cruise cost of nearly $1 million, which is pretty cool, right? Thank you, Sean, for having, the foresight and trust that, this would be a great concept. And so that's where we come together. And so wherever you are right now in your business, whether you're at 15, 20, 25 families so far coming out of July, rolling into August and September, there's no reason. I mean, we already have people that have, I think there's 10 people that have already qualified over 100 families in the first 3-4 weeks. Yeah, they're banger producers. Yes, they're rock stars. Yes, they buy a lot of leads, but it also means it's possible. It means that what someone else has done, you can do too. So wherever you are, you can still have 2 months to qualify for this thing, and getting around the elite group of people that are make it happeners and doers. Because if you're a person who finds themselves with a desire to achieve and excel and put yourself in a mindset where I only like, there's this great Kobe Bryant like memes, or I call meme, but it's not, it's a short video. It's like, I don't talk to lazy people. I don't want to be around them. I don't want to get infected by them. They're only going to make me stupider, and there's nothing I can learn from them. And so that concept goes, so if we go the opposite, I only want to get around winners. I only want to get around 30K producers. I only want to get around integrity partners. I only want to get around doers and winners and goers, right? That's what this cruise offers you. So for those that are qualifying or like every time I get around the other partners or top producers, like I glean insight, right? I go, they live their life that way. Like I'm right now thinking about going and getting a bike so I can ride a good bike, right? I've got a mountain bike that I ride around the neighborhood with my kids and pull my like daughter in her little like wagon stroller, but a good bike, because Zach rides like 50 miles when he goes out on these rides. And I'm like, Zach's really successful. He's really fit. He's got big biceps. Maybe these things would help me to, but and all jokes aside, right? Successful people recognize habits of other successful people. That's what you'll get by being on this cruise, right? By promoting it, by being positive about it, by encouraging people to attend and to push for it, because it's not just the winning it. It's not just the networking. It's even more so the $1 million conversations that you're going to have with people whom you want to associate with. And if the words I'm saying don't resonate with you, well, it's time for you to elevate your expectations. It's time for you to grow and evolve and mature and to decide if massive success is truly something you want in your life, right? When we all start this business, right, we get our first chargeback, we get our first roll-up lead, or we learn about additional expenses, then we get staff, then we have their staff problems, and then we've got, so the life just keeps coming at you, your own personal life, your own business life, and how you progress through it. And those that you have to seek counsel from equip you with knowledge to get through it. And that's what you get by attending and going and winning something like this. So I'm beyond excited for it. I'm grateful that Sean had the consciousness or the awareness that this is something that at this time in our company, as great as we are and as much production as we're spitting off, that it'd be great to pull together the top 200-300 people, love on them, go down the tallest water slide in the world, and zip line and go to some shows and ice skate on the, like, it's all kinds of cool stuff. Like I haven't been on a cruise since I was a kid, but I'm excited, Zach. So that's where my passion for all of you guys is, and that's where the insight is of it. Is it's not just, hey, let's go, chug beers on the by the pool. Let's go get around other 30K, 40K monthly producers, ask them what they're doing, seeing what they're working on, and glean insight so that we can all continue to grow together.
Yeah, well, to your point, I think one of the biggest things you could ever do is get around people who are doing what you want to do, right? And like a crazy example of this, did you see that story? Someone posted it. It was about like Vietnam veterans and they used heroin in Vietnam. They used heroin in Vietnam. This is a
No,
crazy example, but I'm gonna use it anyway. So they said that like 30% of people, 35, I think, I can't remember the exact number, but it was a big number of soldiers that went to Vietnam tried heroin because it was like everywhere there, right?
that's right.
And then they said when they came back, like 99.9% never tried it again. And but they're saying that if you go to rehab, like a normal person that goes to rehab for heroin in the United States, like there's like a 78% chance they relapse. And so the reason that like the Vietnam soldiers didn't relapse is because they changed their environment. Like they went from being, in whatever crazy city where it was like on the streets to back home with their family and like white picket fence and their wife and their dog and their kid.
Yeah.
So their environment's totally different, right? And the reason that a lot of drug users relapse is because they go to rehab, they get clean, they're like, cool, I'm gonna be clean. They go back to the same environment where they started doing heroin in, and then all
Yeah.
these things trigger it. For oh yeah, like they're like, oh, the sprinklers turn on at 6 a.m. I should do heroin. I don't know exactly how it works, but whatever
You
it
get the
is,
same
right?
friends, the same
Yeah,
neighborhood, the
same
same
friends.
job.
And so same thing with this, right? It's like if you can get around the people that are the top producers or the top business builders, like you're going to be more like them. And then if you get around the people, misery loves company. If you get around the people who, don't do well and blame the leads, the weather, the county, and whatever else they can try to blame, then, you also won't do well. So I think, to your point, this is a massive opportunity for everyone to get around other winners and be able to rub shoulders with them and, hopefully intentionally go there and get to ask questions on how to even get to that next level of being a producer, right? And
Yeah.
if you get good at learning what other producers do, then you can get better at teaching your people how to be better producers, right? So I think everyone should go into that with that mindset as well. For the last couple, 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, can you give everyone some tips on, kind of what marketing means to you and why it's important and, how people should be thinking about marketing themselves, as a producer and as a business owner?
Well, 2, 3 minutes, I might go a little bit longer, but I'm gonna do my
Yeah,
best.
whatever, 5 minutes, whatever you
Okay, all
got.
right, all right. Well, I can talk about marketing forever because I came into this without knowing anything. And my micro background on marketing is I spent a lot of time in MLMs learning about human connection and speaking in front of the room and personal development and the way people think. And then I did software for a long time where the whole thing was online marketing from text to email to Facebook to YouTube to podcasts to everything. And that business wasn't successful, but I learned a ton because I took all that and then I found FFL and, the big dude upstairs said, it's time to stop suffering, Grady. You can ascend now. And I was like, thank you, Jesus. Right. So, no jokes. Okay. So here's my concept on marketing. Right. And this is some simple stuff. And if you take something away, take these specific words. Your goal in marketing is to create an entity that people want to be a part of. That's your goal. That's the simplicity of marketing, right? Create something that people want to be a part of. Agents coming to you, right? People buy you. So being authentic and leveling yourself up as they watch you ascend puts you in a position where you don't sound like everyone else, right? If you listen to a lot of these personal development speakers or business coaches or mindset guys or gurus or whatever, people that built a business in some capacity and now teach you how to then evolve a business. They all say the same things. They just say it differently. They all have a thesaurus, right? So that concept rings true here is most people, society, are looking for someone that they can trust and follow. Someone who speaks a little bit differently, someone who speaks positive. No one joins negative people, right? So speaking positive, but then putting yourself in a position where you're creating a brand. Now, I have FFL America, you have FFL Capital, but you also have, is it Twardowski Enterprises?
Yeah, Twardowski Enterprises Insurance Agency,
That's
which
good.
no one knows of, right?
Yeah, exactly. But so in a marketing concept, like let's make it as simple as possible. Marketing yourself, right? Your simple name, Grady Polcyn, Zach Twardowski, 2 unique names. If you got John Smith, well, do John the broker. I don't know, do Stacy the broker, right? Something simple that you can market, but also like the goal of good marketing is creating stuff that people want to see and even more so want to share. So for me, one of my biggest directions is I understood YouTube from a capacity that YouTube is owned by the #1 search engine in the world. It's the 2nd largest search engine in the world, and it's indexable. So the stuff we post on Facebook and Instagram essentially dies within 5 to 12 hours. It's cool for a minute, but it dies. And so can things go viral on a reel or a YouTube short or a TikTok? Sure. And you should create content there. But my advice is if you have the chops or you're passionate about your business, you're passionate about what you're doing, you should be creating YouTube videos, giving insurance insight training, giving how to overcome the 4 main objections, understanding living benefits, what a whole life policy is, what a term policy is. Like if you're an insurance agent, you're an insurance broker, and you're trying to attract, ideally my goal of my marketing is to attract other agents to me. I'm not trying to attract clients. I can buy leads to get clients. I can work my book that I've built up 1,000 clients if I want, and ask for referrals and go rework my business and see who needs more policies if I want clients. Like, so your goal in the FFL world is understanding that I can buy leads to procure income to make sales, but I can't build an agency. I can't, the agent buying lead pool is really lean unless you're running some sort of like a Facebook ad campaign, or you create YouTube quality content. And then people who are out there, because if you search insurance, there's 2 million agents, right, that are looking for something, or people that sell other avenues and want to look at what would be a better industry, right? What is your background? I'm Easton, right? I used to work at enterprise and now I own an enterprise, right? Find out how. I mean, that was terrible, but
I think it was pretty good. Yeah.
But it's, learn what I did to buy my first home in 12 months, starting my new career. I mean, that's a simple image on a YouTube thumbnail, and then the title. But the concept is, guys, it's not like, it doesn't have to be this epic, incredible thing. You just have to do it, right? So if it's a 4-minute training or a 12-minute training, or I do sometimes 20-minute ones where I interview people consistently, and then creating volume is where now you've got a lot of little baby hooks out there in the water. And when someone's searching, how do I sell mortgage protection? How do I sell final expense? How do I sell a whole life? How do I sell, like if you haven't started a YouTube channel, these are 10 simple videos that you could start with making. And if you sold any amount of insurance with us, like you sold 20, 30 families with us before, these would be simple videos for you to make, sit down at your computer, record them, and start to post them, and then share them with your new agents. One of my greatest recruiting tools is I would say, here's a training video I do. You can see how I get people started. And here's an overview video. Check these 2 things out. If you like what you see, give me a call. Like, I'm not chasing people. I'm trying to get hundreds, if not thousands of hooks in the water, and then creating an entity, as we come back to the top, an entity that people want to be a part of. And so, I mean, I could talk at marketing at length, but once you do that, your goal is to then put them on email lists. You can drip on them in perpetuity, getting your team into a text list so you can get communication with them fast. But maybe we do a deeper marketing call another time, but that would be
we should.
My simplest advice for anyone who wants to create more agents coming to them is utilizing YouTube, because I can't, Instagram, all these are great. They're fun and all the pictures and cars and whatever the heck we will follow that Instagram goes, more of this stuff right now, but if you can create content that then doesn't die, because Facebook, it dies, Instagram, it dies, X, is that did Elon
That's
rename
Twitter's X? Yeah, I don't know if the name's still Twitter or not, but
I want to be that rich. I could just
Yeah.
rename a $44 billion company. That's a goal.
Well, first he just bought it, and then he just said, you know what, I'll just rename it.
I'm going to rename it. So there's some goals, guys. Start to create some things, but then what you're also doing is you're creating a library of training that then where you can help your direct agents so they can see how you do it. If you have success, then it's easy to be able to coach, right? I have a new girl I was talking to yesterday. She sells about 30 families a month. I helped her out with some new agents. And I was like, here, the secret is you already know how to do it and you're confident with the way you do it. So just teach them your way. And then you're going to be confident when they're going through it. These are some simple adages. So hope that was helpful, guys.
No, it is. And I think one thing I missed, and one thing, I don't know if you missed or not, but I wish I had documented more of what it was like going through the struggle. Because like once you make it to the other side and you get good at selling, it's new people don't relate to it as much, right? But I think back all the time on what it was like, and I remember like the frustration of, in that time, like I literally remember being in the old car I had in Charleston, South Carolina, and all day getting no-showed and like literally like punching the roof. And like I wish I had documented that, like but like still then the next day going out and selling 3 or 4 people, right? So I would encourage people, someone on here will do it, I'm sure. Like, but if someone could document the whole way. Like it'd be so relatable to people that are getting started or even looking at getting started. And they're like, oh, okay, like that guy failed, but he figured it out, like all good. And that's what I wish I had, because you can't fabricate that, but I wish I had documented that because there was some awesome, like looking back on it didn't seem awesome at the time, but looking back now, I'm like, man, like there was times I slept on the side of the road. Like there was all kinds of crazy, wild stuff we all did to make this thing work in the beginning. And so I would encourage people just to start, just documenting what they're doing, what they're going through. You don't even have to post it, just keep it because you might want to post it later, right?
Dude, if we could go back to only in person,
Oh,
our production would explode.
yeah, it
'Cause
would.
you're a killer. You're just there. You don't make one sale at 10 o'clock in the morning and then go, let's go to brunch. It doesn't, but dude, the good old days. The good old days of grinding, because because you're not going to go home. I'm not going back to Chantel at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I had 8 appointments.
No, hell no.
Pull over at a Walmart under a tree and get my Chick-fil-A salad, eat it, and then call the leads that are sitting on my passenger seat floor and try to get in a home. And that's the business. So guys, I think with Zach's, the bigger thing is, work really, really hard. And the work is trying to connect with clients and solve their problems. That's what we do. We get paid for solving people's problems. Agents, a problem that they don't have an income stream that's like ours, and clients who don't have protection. That's why they filled a lead card, right? It would be real hard business if we ripped out a page of the white pages and said, start dialing, that would be a hard business, but these people actually requested coverage. So it's pretty incredible. So
one thing I'll end with, just because I want to share something really cool that you just mentioned, like ripping out a page of the white page. We have an agent on our team named Jorge who lives in Houston, who's probably on here. He's always on here, and he doesn't do that, but he only door knocks, like not leads. He just finds neighborhoods in apartment complexes and door knocks, and he sells at least 40 policies a month doing that. And I was in Houston yesterday. I live in Austin now, which is hot. I was in Houston yesterday. It was like 5 degrees hotter and like twice as humid.
Oh yeah.
And all summer long, he's out there door knocking all day long. So, like Grady said, if you want to make it work bad enough, you will. And if you don't want to make it work, you won't. And become a great marketer. So I appreciate it, Grady. I thank you for putting the cruise on and getting all that stuff together. And thank you for your time today, man.
Always, brother. Happy to be here.
All right, guys. So this section, we'll come up with better names for all this stuff, Jake. But for this section, we'll talk about, kind of producer mindset. And really one thing that a lot of us and a lot of agents have been focused on and a lot of management focused on is how we, really maximize, both profitability and like productivity, because, and you and I think could both attest to this. This is a business where you could feel really busy and feel like you're getting a lot done and get nothing done. And there's other times where you feel like maybe you didn't do that much, but you get paid a lot, right? And so I think it's just, learning where to spend your time, how to spend your time wisely, and like really understanding that there's, this is commission-based sales, and same thing for building a team is commission-based, team building deal that you get paid for performance on, not for effort, right? And so there's no gold star for, putting in a good, honest day's work. Like you have to bring home results, which is good and bad, right? It kind of sucks when you're new and you're not that good. And then once you get good, it's really cool because you don't have to work as hard and you can have a big return. So what I wanted, you to talk about as far as, some things that could really help people hone in on productivity. And especially for agents that have been here for, let's say like at least 6 months, a big thing that everyone should be doing is working their book of business. I was looking at this, dude, and I was at a couple meetings recently with some integrity partners, and I've talked to a bunch of people, and there's other companies there. I met a guy who his whole company, what they do is they buy books of businesses from agents when they go to retire. It's mostly Medicare, but some final expense blocks of businesses, and they sell them to other agencies who work that book of business. And so it's worth a lot of money, especially if you've been there for a period of time. But I think that a lot of us, myself included, until the end of the time in the field, don't capitalize on that because it seems easier just to go write more business. But people literally will pay for your book of business because so they can go back and add policies on, not replace policies, but go add on and go, it's like a free warm lead. So I'd love for you to talk about some of the stuff you've been doing, with annual reviews and how you're, getting multiple sales from your already existing book of business, and maybe even, bringing people back on that fell off or whatever you're doing with it. But I'd love for you to touch on that for the next, 5 minutes or so.
Dude, for sure. Honestly, I didn't start working my book of business until January of this year. So like 2 full years of writing business and all that stuff. But going back, there was so much gold that I missed. Because like if you're walking into a couple's house, for instance, and you just put coverage on the breadwinner at that point in time, but they have 3 or 4 kids and they couldn't put something in place on the wife at that time, right? Like just calling people up just to see if their situation changed. Like, have they accumulated any more debt, like from any assets? Have they remortgaged their house recently? Have they changed jobs recently? Has the wife started working? Are you guys both working? Did somebody stop working? Just figure out what changes went on, make sure everything's good with their policy. And then you can repackage and represent a close for the other person or for the new asset, for the new debt, for the new opportunity, whatever. But it's even if you don't close something, like people always appreciate you reaching out. And like you can always ask for referrals from your clients, man. So I mean, it's an endless business cycle that I didn't take advantage of, and I wish I would have earlier.
What does the initial phone call sound like? And then are you trying to do like a 1-call appointment, or, what does the process look like? So you call someone you wrote 2 years ago, like just walk through kind of what that initial phone, or even 6 months ago. Like, I think if it's been at least 6 months, you can call people back. Right. And again, you're not, I just want to make this so clear so everyone hears it over and over again. Like, you're not ever canceling business that's already in force, because if you have clients that are on the books for 1.5 years or 2 years, they're already past contestability. Like, if they die, their beneficiaries are getting a paycheck like the next day. So what we don't want people doing is calling their book and replacing business that's, first of all, it's called churning and it's illegal. You'll lose your insurance license and probably so don't do that. But what you can do is call back, even after 6 months, and like you said, hey, we didn't cover your wife, you wanted to do that. So I guess 2 things, like, what does the initial call look like? And then, what do you do now, or what did you do before to keep track of all these scenarios that you needed to go back and follow up on because you knew that in 6 months they needed more coverage, or their daughter or wife or whatever?
Yeah, dude. So a tool that we started leveraging was HoneyBook. And HoneyBook's really cheap. I think it's like $79.99 for unlimited use. And you can upload all of your customer documents for all their policies and all that stuff in there, attach it to their customer portal, and they can actually communicate with you through that portal. It's like, what I really didn't like was using a bunch of different phone systems and then trying to remember which number I gave to the client or which number I called that client on and closed them. Right. If you have it all in one place, it helps a lot, and you can streamline and you can put notes in there. You can book appointments, all that stuff. So that has made it a lot easier and just a lot more streamlined. But with the call, just the follow-up call, just super casual, dude. They're already a client. Like, just call them up and have a conversation. Hey, Zach, this is Jake, that dude that looks like Peyton Manning from the eyebrows up, that swung by last December and put a policy in place on you and your wife. How's everything going? Has anything changed? And just kind of take it from there. I will say, booking appointments for reviews with current clients, it's pretty sticky compared to like booking appointments with leads. So don't be afraid to do that.
Got it. And what couple directions does it usually go? Like, if I'm like, yeah, man, everything's good, do you start digging back in, or, like, if I don't give you anything, right? So you're like, hey, how's everything? Has anything changed? Like, no, man, everything's good. Like, it was good. I appreciate you coming out. Appreciate you checking in. Not much has changed our way. But thank you for calling. Do you try to dig in and leverage any of their, products we offer, or anything, or where do you take the conversation from there?
Man, I just try and avoid like non-specific language. Just because if I ask, like, if anything changed, you're like, that could mean something completely different to you than it does to me. Right. So instead of saying something like that, I'm just going to say, like, Zach, have you accumulated any debt, or have you guys attained any assets in the last 6 months prior to when I came out there last? Are you still working at the same job, or did you get a new one? You're making more money or less? Right. Is your wife still staying at home, or is she working now? Right. Ask for just specific stuff like that. And you're going to be able to uncover something that way.
Perfect. And then, yeah, like you said, if they go like, yeah, I started my own business, then you go, okay, maybe you're an IUL client now. Maybe I should get you some sort of health product too, right? Or if they're like, yeah, we took out a second mortgage on the house. Now we owe 600,000. You're like, okay, I need to add more. So you just ask very specific questions and give them a lot of questions so that one of them will stick. And if not, you ask for referral, right?
Always, dude. Always. Referrals are so freaking awesome, because if you call your client up and it just shows that you care, number one, about your clients and your business, and you're doing a good job, you're keeping track of everything. If you can't find an angle with all the questions you're asking with your client, like, let them know, like, hey, I'm looking for a referral business. If you think I did a good job, do you know anybody that you work with that I could also help? They'll give you people.
dude, people love giving referrals. And that's what I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, dude, pretty much everything that I do is like from a referral. Like the place I get my haircut is a referral from someone that I met when I first moved here. Our realtor was a referral from one of the contacts I had at Ethos who just bought a house here. Like, you know, the place where I bought my car was a friend of a friend that was a GM of a deal. Like everyone's referrals, and we don't ask for them, but like people like giving out referrals for things that they enjoy, right? Like this
100%.
something that you take, this gym you go, like everything that we do pretty much is all based on someone told us to do it, right?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
So sweet. Well, so that's part of the business. We've been here 6 months or longer now. What can you go through kind of what you're doing as far as, you know, how much telesales versus in-home you're doing? You know, if you're kind of trending one way more than the other. And before you jump into that, I would say to new people, like I've heard some confusion from some agents we work directly with, saying like, oh, I want to do both. It's like, I think the best thing you should do as a new agent is pick one and try to get really good at it, and then you can add the other one. But I think if you're trying to learn two things at once, right? That's like you said Peyton Manning. Like if Peyton Manning tried to learn how to throw the football right-handed and left-handed at the same time, like that would have taken a lot longer to figure out, right?
Yeah.
So I think you just pick one and do it. But what is your, because you obviously started in home, what does your evolution look like now, and how much are you doing of one versus the other?
I'd say that in terms of premium and like app count, in-home is still the most consistent thing for me. That's why I still do it at least one full day a week. I like to have minimally 10 in-home appointments per week and just knock it out in a day. You know, like Sunday for me, in a couple of days is going to be my in-home day. Right. But what that does for me is it just gives me consistent cash flow. And I feel like as a new agent, that's what you want to attain and master, is just have consistent cash flow all the time. Right. So if something's working, like don't turn the faucet down, like crank it up a little bit, like see how good you can get at in-home or telesales, whatever road you're going down. And almost to the point where you can like automate it and just like guess, like, okay, if I have 10 appointments this week, my closing ratio is like X typically. So I know I'm going to take home X amount of money based off my average app count. Like that's what you want to get to, and just make it super predictable before you add in like another business dynamic, like trying to completely run a hybrid schedule or switch over and learn one or the other.
Yeah, no doubt. Now for, you know, maybe for in-home or for telesales, are there any things that you've done, because we're kind of talking about profitability, any things that you've done? And I know you've had a big focus on, you know, increasing retention over the last couple of years, and it's gone way up. Hopefully you don't mind me sharing that, because I already shared it, but it's gone. Yeah. What are a couple of tips you have for people for how to make sure that their business, because it's really cool to sell insurance, but it's not as cool if it falls off. And we've all had times in our lives where persistency is not what we wanted. So what are a couple of things you've done to increase persistency and retention for the clients that you have, you know, make sure they're not canceling after a week or a month or, you know, 3 months?
Yeah, dude, for sure. And like, I don't mind sharing that, by the way, man, because I mean, somebody's going to be able to learn from it and not, you know, not be the new chargeback king. Like I'm fine retaining that title. No one else needs to do that. But one thing I implemented, man, that helped me out a ton is I just kind of make it seem like I'm an employee, even if they know I'm self-employed, and an employee that has like rules, financial rules. So like Zach, I'll say like, hey man, we have certain rules in place because like our number one priority is making sure that if you have a policy in place that it pays out to your beneficiary when it's needed. Right. So we don't want to reallocate more than 5%, 7%, or 9% on the top end of your monthly income. Right. Before we even look into like what the product is, I'm going to let them know what those parameters are, just so I can kind of separate myself as being like a guy who's going to try and just jam a policy down somebody's throat just because I can, and that I have to abide by some rules as well. And right. So we can like implement those and write those out before we even look at the premium. And like I do that specifically on telesales. And that's helped me out a ton, because it just gives people a price gauge, and it helps me not waste a lot of my time in having to just like find a new angle or find a reason to sell something. Like I want them to know that this service is going to cost them something. Here's the rules and the standards that we have to stay close to. So let's see what face value can fit your 5 or 7 or 9% and what we can do with it.
Perfect. Yeah, I love that, because you're kind of establishing a budget ahead of time. And dude, we were scared to do that for a long time. Like even talk about budget, we were just like, let's throw some numbers out there and see what happens. But the more transparent you are with people, they're like, oh yeah, I could. And that's how you do everything else, right? You don't go like, hey, let's go pick a house we really like. It's like, no, that'd be really dumb, because the one you like might be $37 million, right? You're like, okay, this is the budget. And then the bank goes, okay, you can be within this range, like pick one you like. And you're doing the same thing. You're like, okay, this is what you can afford. Like pick one that you like that's within the budget you can afford. It makes
Yep.
way more sense than the way we just kind of used to take like a shotgun approach to it. It's like, hey, here's some numbers. Hopefully one of them works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like make
it's silly now
make
that I'm
them
talking about it.
commit to
Yeah.
one up front. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if they're making $1,000 and you show them like 5%, like you got $50, $70 and $90, like
Yeah.
max. Like which one of those is going to be the most comfortable? And then move over to the application. You see what you can get them pre-qualified for and get specific on what the face value is going to do for them at each tier.
Right. Well, and it's more personalized to them, right? It's not just a random amount based on some number you cooked up. So I love it. Last thing I want you to go over is what are some tips you have for, time management and planning for people who are either just individual producers trying to maximize their schedule and make sure they always have leads coming in, or people building a business, how they make sure they have time to, like we talked about in the beginning, like you have to really focus on the things that actually make you money, right? And differentiate what's important and what's not. And it can be hard sometimes because it's like something over here seems really important and it's not. And then sometimes you're like, well, I really have to work on building this relationship that maybe doesn't generate money today, but will long term. So how do you make sure that you're prioritizing things the right way, and as an agent and as a manager? The other thing I wanted you to incorporate in there is like how you make sure you're always planning so you have enough leads for every single dial day.
Dude, for sure. For sure. I would still base like your schedule around like cash flow and put the most important things like at the beginning of your day. Right. So just like if we're going to be running like a full weekend of appointments on a Thursday, like, dude, I don't want to start dialing at noon. Like I want to start dialing like heavy and aggressively, like really early in the day, and then get that done as fast as I possibly can so I can recruit and build later on in the day. And then also book some recruiting interviews like in between my field appointments for the next few days. See if you can knock out your whole entire schedule like during your dial day, so you're not stressed and having it affect your performance while you're in the field the next couple of days. Same thing with telesales. Like if I want to make sure that my cash flow is like super good and heavy and maximized all the time, like, dude, early on in the week, I want to make sure that I tackle the majority of my premium so I don't have to be stressed out towards the end of the week. Make sure all your personal bills are paid for, and then like just like pour the fire on. I think it also helps to have a goal in mind too, dude, because like it's really going to be hard to prioritize somebody's schedule if they don't know like the method to the madness and what they want to do. Right. So if you want to build a team and you want to get to like X amount with your team volume, and you're still like going to be running appointments and doing business at a high clip, you have to be pretty damn organized because you have to factor in both facets of the business.
Sure. And you like, I remember I always had to plan out like what I was going to do at different sections of my day, even, like I'm going to dial these this time, work with agents this time, do a staff meeting this time. And I still do that now. Like I was sitting here right before we started this, like, with my calendar, like, okay, this day I'm traveling here, these meetings I do this day, like how do I fit in these ones here? And I think it's important to write out what you have coming up so you don't feel, even if all you have to do is just run business, like just write which days you're going to be, dialing, which days you're going to take off, like when you have a date night, just being organized with your schedule can make a massive difference because it kind of declutters your mind, right?
Yes. Yeah, that helps me out a lot, dude. Get as specific as you can.
No doubt, dude. Well, hey, I appreciate it, man. We'll definitely have you back on and go more specific into sales soon, but I appreciate that the focus on just helping everyone increase profitability, and being as effective with their time as possible, dude. And for people who missed or wanted the website you use to keep track of your clients, it's called Honeybook, right?
Yep.
Perfect, man. Wait, thanks, Jake. As always, appreciate you. And everyone, if you just watch this and you're like, does Jake know what he's talking about? He's hit Hall of Fame every year he's been here. And really, there should be like a special, like double Hall of Fame, because that's the one that Jake hits every year. So appreciate you, man. Thanks for leading from the front, and we're going to keep growing this thing.
Thanks, bro.
All right. So as Zach talked about, I'm with Dominique Rogers, FFL Golden State, in the office today, and we're going to rip through some objections, dude. So I appreciate you making the trip over.
I'm pumped, dude. This is fun.
So this is really huge to me, and we'll probably cover more sales stuff, because if you guys have been around at all, you know that Dom has kind of been like the phone dude. So there is lots of really good phone training that you can look at all over the place. So we wanted to get into some actual sales objections, specifically telesales stuff, because we've been jumping into that the last couple of months, and it's a little bit different game.
It is a totally different game.
So why don't we I'm going to ask you right out of the gate, let's go through how you are keeping clients like engaged on the call when you start.
Right on, man. Well, I was first, thank you guys for having me. This is gonna be a ton of fun because when you're in it, you learn so much. So people ask like, why are you doing telesales or working these different lead types? I'm like, well, you want to keep up with everything. You want to know what's new. You don't want to be like, well, 10 years ago we used to do this. 8 years ago it used to be like this. I'm like, yeah, well, things change, and the things that we're going to talk about today are things that, dude, I've really learned the last 3-4 months and learning still. And so keeping clients engaged, it's huge. In person, you keep them engaged. They're at their house. Like, I'm here. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard to forget I'm here, right?
Yep.
Like, you give me some water. You can be polite. There's a lot. Take my shoes off. There's a lot of things to engage face to face. So how do you do that over the phone? Okay. And I think a lot of the times we get into a script, right? And then we just start reading the script, and the clients can get, well, they kind of go to sleep on you. And then you're getting through all the way through the script. The next thing you know, you're like, all right, yeah, so here's the part where we're going to get into the application. We're going to do this. That you've done everything exactly the script says, but you lost them and they hung up. How many times, Easton, have you been, when you started doing your, and still to this day, do that, you're just like, where'd they go? Like, where'd they go? And you can't get back in touch with them. You try to call them. You're like, man, I thought we had such this great connection. Well, the thing is that you were very connected to your script, but not to the person, right? And as you're on the phone, you really have to be engaged with the client by checking in with them. I think in a lot of our scripts, there's not that check-in moment. Like, hey, does that make sense? Are you with me? Are you paying attention to their tonality? Are they responding to your questions? Yeah. Are they? Yeah, that really makes sense. Like, now you know, but if I'm taking the yops as I can move on to the next
engagement.
step, that's where I'm going to get lost. And in person, you can see body language. You can see if the guy's like this. Well, dude, little do you know, you might be on the phone. It could be muted. They're over there talking to their son playing soccer, and and you're just going through your deal, right? How do you? So read their tonality, okay, and check in with them. And what's their tonality when you're checking in with them? I think those are two things that you can do off the rip. That now also, I think a lot of overcome objections are preventing downfalls in any sales process is getting ahead of them. Okay. So if I know that when we start getting into banking, we start getting into personal information, that sometimes clients get weird. Okay. Why don't I just say that initially? Why don't I say, hey, here's my state license? Because I think we're doing all telesales. Everybody shoots over their state license, their NPN. If you're not doing, like, you have to do that. Okay, if you're getting straight into it, that's the big problem right there. Okay, so you have got to send that over to them and slow down. Here's my state license. Here's a link that takes you straight to the page that you can see it. Check in with them. Can you click on that? Can you see it? All right, great. There's no complaints on my name. I don't plan on starting today. Now, during this appointment, Easton, we're going to talk about some pretty personal things. Okay. I'm going to ask you for your social. We're going to talk about your kids. We're going to talk about what you want this to look like when you pass away. And sometimes, man, I'm a stranger. You just met me from Facebook, TikTok, the internet. I get it. But I'm going to need you to give me some feedback on when you're uncomfortable, and like not just hang up or just kind of disappear, because I know how it is, man. Can we agree on that? That if it gets uncomfortable, you can check in with me, and I'm not going to try to push you. Be clear. This is your plan. This is your family. I'm just here to facilitate it because I have the license. Is that fair?
Dude, I think giving them the concept of like, hey, I'm in charge while you're still in control of the appointment.
Yes.
Dude, that's how it's a dual win, both parties.
Correct.
So they won't be as uncomfortable making the decision.
Yes. It's like, but let's just let them know up front that it can get uncomfortable. And actually, it will get uncomfortable. A lot of times for me, it's going to be uncomfortable for me. And let them know that. And I think once you let them know that, it's not to say they're not going to hang up on you. Be clear that you're not going to run into these, but you're going to be very clear that you did everything you could do, right? And I remember being in the field and being like, how do I stop no-shows? I'm like, dude, Sean, like, dude, you don't stop them. You just kind of negate them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Sense? You do like just less of them. Like if you run 10 appointments and you had, 3 show up, maybe now I can teach you something to get 5 or 6 to show up. But I don't know if I can teach you how to get 9 to 10 to show up. And the same thing here. But if across the board we're letting all of our clients know, what if that brings us 10, 50% closer to more 10, 15% more sales? You know what I mean? That maybe wouldn't have happened. Now in every appointment, is it necessary to do it? I say yes. Is it? I think when it comes to sales, Easton, and these things, that you may not be talking to the person who's unengaged or wants to hang up on you, but if you don't do it to everybody, you're going to miss the ones who are. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I think that's the part of this, to where it's like, well, everybody is not like that. And I remember Eric Schmidt I got from him, "Are you good at keeping your appointments?"
Yep.
I got that from him, and I was like, dude, everybody's like, I heard it, and I was like, that's kind of offensive.
It's a little forward.
Does that make sense? But then I started like going, no, it's not. Like it's the ones who answer yes. Now his show rate, he's like, dude, now my show ratio is 60, 70%. When before I wasn't asking that, and it was 30, 40%. And I'm like, so just ask it across the board so I can be at 60 or 70. Make sense?
100% makes sense. Let's go to, you were talking about structure a little bit, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about. And I think it's more important in telesales than in-home. Yes. Like you always, when you're selling, you have to have structure because you can get in front of the objections. But dude, when you're in a home, you can struggle your way through and still come out with an application, family served, again, dual win. If you have no set concept of structure on the phone, you are definitely going to lose people you don't need to lose just because they don't know the expectations of what's going to take place.
Right.
Again, who you are, what your job is. And I will never take credit for this because I can't remember who I stole it from. But I was trying to figure out on how to pivot from, asking them, I'm going to need your social and your bank stuff. And I didn't know how to segue that part of the appointment. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, who's the best at examples that I've ever worked with is John Wetmore.
Yes.
So, and it could have been him that, said this in a different concept, but the dealership example. So like, hey, Dom, when you go to a dealership, they're going to ask you on this insurance application all the same stuff as like when you go to buy a car, right? So they're going to need your driver's license, date of birth, social, all the bank information, all the stuff that you're going to use to buy a car. They're going to do the same stuff except for they don't check your credit. Does that make sense? So now, if we get that far, Dom, once I've already set up, like, this is my job, this is what we're going to do today, I'm going to ask you these questions, figure out a company, figure out a plan, having that segue of, hey, you bought a car before? Most people have. Dude, it's the same stuff. Driver's license, date of birth, social, bank you're going to use to pay. They're going to ask you for all the same stuff. So if we get that far, do you have access to that information? And are you comfortable giving it to me? Because they are going to ask. And like, that was my bridge of not making it awkward. Because I didn't know how to get through that part of the appointment. And then people are like, yeah, I'm not giving you that ever, just so you know, because I don't know who you are, even though they got my license now, because I took care of that up front. That is the best thing that I could think of to kind of tie that in. And again, 105% sure I took that from someone.
Right.
But if you don't have any other way to bridge the gap, that structure piece has been the thing that's worked the best for me.
Dude, it's massive. It's massive. You got to set the table. Now, where's that falling in? All right. So
I always do an intro, why, structure, close. Like introduce myself. Hey, I'm Easton. Do you got a pen and paper really quick in about 15 minutes so I can go through this with you?
Okay.
If we have that verbal exchange agreement that I validated their info and they're good to go, then I want to dig into some why a little bit. Like, why is it important to you? Because that's how you're avoiding the objections at the end, is getting into that why.
Okay.
So, who's in charge? Where do they live? What do they do for work? Tell me about them a little bit. Did you have a recent experience? Just kind of rapid fire a few different things and then sit and listen and pay attention to the responses. Engage. If you engage with them, they'll engage with you back, and then you can have an actual appointment. So once I've got through intro and why, my structure is, hey, my job is super easy. I'm going to basically do underwriting for like 40 companies, 30 or 40 of them, something like that. All insurance is state regulated, so they're all about the same price anyway. What I do is ask you a little handful of suitability questions. So age, income, house, health, current insurance, same stuff that's on our client worksheet. And I say, I'm going to go ahead and shop around all these companies. Once I've isolated a company, Dom, you're going to custom build out your own plan.
Love it.
And then once you've built out your own plan and I find a company that I think is a good match, we have to send them in a request for coverage to make sure that you can actually get the green light for what you're asking for. Now, if we get that far, just like when you go to a dealership, and then that's when I insert that
Hell
piece.
yeah. Okay.
So
That's awesome.
and then once they give me the feedback of, oh yeah, all good, that's what I expected, or like, yep, doesn't make sense to me, like the appointment is done. Now it's carrier price.
That's it.
But everything else is, I told them I need the sensitive information. I made sure they had access to it. Are you comfortable giving it to me? Because they are going to ask, I don't need anything, but the insurance company does if you want to get approved. So that does negate a lot of objections that you will get as far as, I don't want to give you that stuff.
You know what's beautiful about this before you even got to that point? There's nothing to do with insurance before that. Like, this is like if you're like a new agent, right? And you're a new agent, or you said, you know what, I might not be a new agent, but dude, I want to get into this thing and I want to ratchet it up a little bit. All you got to do is really study, what is your intro? How do you introduce yourself? How are you letting them know, here's my state license? What's your transition to shooting them over the text? And what's your transition to the why you're here? Like, what's my job while I'm here, and why are you here? And listen. Key thing I wrote down was listen, dude. Sit back and listen. And then from there, we're going to help you custom build your plan, and here's the expectations of what's going to happen next. Dude, if you can set that up, and how do you practice that? Give us some ways. I don't want to get too down, but I think this is big. Because we can get into the product, because it doesn't matter if you're final expense, if you're doing internet lead, if you're doing mortgage lead. This is the same for every single opening of a telesale. Fair to say?
Yep, for all of them.
How do you practice this?
So you should always be doing role plays, which Joe Basso was just talking about last week, by the way, like this past Monday. He was just talking about that, doing role plays. Big 10-minute timer, dude. So give yourself like 10 minutes to really practice introing yourself, asking, your manager or a fellow agent. Like, dude, nothing is more valuable than having two new agents role play with each other and then record it, listen, and then practice again. Like, having small groups of new people with like a manager oversight, I guess, like someone who's heard all the objections before, go through that, set a timer for 10 minutes and make sure that it takes you 10 minutes to introduce yourself, ask the why questions, do a little digging, and set some structure. Because if you can do that for 10 minutes on repeat, this is how you get paid. This is the part that you cannot miss, especially over the phone. So I would just put that on repeat and record yourself, dude. I'll never forget. I recorded myself and I didn't even have to set it to John because I listened to it and I was like, wow, that's rough. I did anyway because he had to hear it. It was hilarious.
Dude,
okay.
This is huge. I love it.
What do you think?
Dude,
Tracking?
Yeah, we're tracking great, man. I got a question for you, man. Budget. All right. It doesn't fit into my budget. Objections. All right. How do you identify the budget off the rip, or do you let clients tell you based on their needs what they want, and then you identify? How's that work for you?
So part of our client worksheet is going through their income and their expenses. I always do a soft budget in every single appointment, no matter what, where I'm getting big major primary bills. So I already know the numbers that I'm showing them. I know that they can afford it. And a simple rule just to start is keep it 10% under their income. Like if they make $2, $3, $4 grand a month, 4, 3, 2, that you should never be more than that when you're starting, just to give yourself a baseline. So if they're like, I want 100 grand and I'm 74 and I want some term, and then you look and it's $800, like, dude, maybe figure out how to downsell that fast, because that's not going to be a good option for their budget. So if I'm working, I think especially with retired seniors is where I see people struggle, is they're like, well, we're not day one decision makers and we really need to hash out our budget anyway. I'm like, got it. So Dom, let's see, you're 73. So what did you retire? Like 60, 62, 65?
65.
65. So you have been retired for 7 years?
Yep.
So been on a fixed or regulated income about the last 7 years?
Yep.
So safe to say to the penny, you kind of know what's typically going in and out every single month, since that doesn't change much?
Yep.
Got it. So Dom, out of these three, knowing that your budget's been the same for the last 7 years, out of these three, which one do you think is a minimum enough to start where Mary's going to have enough that's easier for you guys every month? And I'm just going to do that circle, dude, until they'll give me an honest answer. Because it has nothing to do with them not going there, knowing their budget. And if even I show them something that I know that they can afford, maybe they just don't want to pay. So I'll just ask them. Like, okay, so even the one on the bottom here is 150. It should be well within your month to month. Do you just not really want to pay that much? or is it just not enough value? Because I can tweak this and change it to whatever you guys think is affordable that you're comfortable with. That's easy. But I just need to know, I know you can afford these three. Do you just not want to pay that much? He's like, I'd rather just pay $100. Okay, dude, problem solved. Let's proceed. And then we're good. So that's the kind of like my way around the retired budget seniors issue.
Retire. Okay. So let's take it to the younger client. All right. Let's say sub 40. Fair? Sub 40, 45. Okay. A lot of the times what I'm seeing in those age ranges is when it comes to budget, it's typically they want more insurance or they think they need more. And it's typically the client who has none. Okay. It's typically not the client who already has insurance who's going, oh, the budget. Because clients who already have insurance, they understand it. Actually, that's another side piece. I love when clients already have insurance.
The best.
That used to be like my arch. I used to be like, oh my God, I got to fight. I'm like, no, it's like, dude, they already know, like, they know it comes out of the bank account. They know how it works. They get it. They get that they got it 10 years ago and they're younger, they're older. It's the best thing ever. So, but when the clients are younger, it's typically you just have to really get them into the game, okay? Because before, when you're 25, 30 years old, 35 years old, you're thinking, well, first off, I ain't going to die like that, okay? But hey, dude, if I'm gonna do it, I need me like a milli, right? I need me like $1 million or $500,000 of insurance, okay? It's the mortgage lead. They're 30 years old. They got a $500,000 mortgage. You got to talk to them of why 250 is going to solve the solution for them. All right, solve the problem for them, which is they don't want to lose the house. All right, the problem wasn't you want to pay off the house. The problem was you're the sole provider, or you guys dual income. Without one income, you guys are screwed. That we got to really get down to the problem. So when they say that, it's not they can't afford it. It's that they want more, right? Or that they think it's that they can't afford it, right? But they think that they want more. So they can't afford the 200 grand, maybe not the 500 grand. So you showed them 200 grand, right? For $200. And they go, nah, that's not, I don't want to do that. Right? I can't fit that into my budget. Well, you know they can, right? What they're really saying is, dude, I really want I want to cover the whole mortgage. Okay? I want to cover the whole mortgage. So, or I want to have $400,000 to go to my kids instead of 200 grand. Why? Because that's just what I had in my mind. You know what I mean? So you really got to talk to them about something is better than nothing. All right? I don't want to leave folks uninsured, and I do that before the objection comes up, all right? So a lot of the times with these objections, you're going to be talking to people, you're going to set the table. Hey, most of my clients, all right, typically do this, okay? A lot of my clients, when they first get into this, all right, they say, man, I want X, Y, or Z, and they really realize that really what they need is really this. Wants and needs are completely different when it comes to insurance, and I get them to agree with me. Right? And I go, hey, at 30 years old, 500 grand, dude, your mortgage is going down, right? Like by the time you're 35, 40 years old, how much is it going to be then? Be less, man. All right. And the thing about this insurance, it stays level forever. All right. Not saying you're not going to need it, but man, use your money while you're alive. All right. Use your money. I don't want you going insurance poor. I don't want you spending all your money on insurance. Use your money while you're alive and let the death benefit go over to your kids. But if you're spending all your money on insurance that you don't necessarily need, then that's where I'm trying to help you out. Now you come in as the sales guy or girl who's really showing them, hey, dude, you don't even need all of that. And I get paid on commission, by the way. I share stuff like that. Like I get paid on commission, by the way. So the more you spend, the better it is for me. But I don't sleep well at night knowing that I put people in a situation that they really don't need to be in. Now, could I make it sound real sexy to you and why this? Yes, I could. But I don't want to do that, man. Most people your age, they do this. And then we set up, I'm your agent for life, man. 6 months from now, we can revisit this. A year from now, we can revisit this. This isn't going to be the last time you get insurance. You're acting like insurance is a one and done thing. This is something we're going to revisit all the time. Every year, you're going to have more kids. You're going to get married. You may get divorced. There's things that are going to happen. Does that make sense? So let them know that. And I think the younger they are, the more education you should provide to them about the relationship you're going to have with them and how this isn't the end all be all today. Because I think that's the biggest reason why they don't want to move is because they're going, nah, dude, if I actually want more than that. But they don't realize that this is something that they can add on, build on, and it's not over just today. So
Dude, that concept of the worst thing that you guys can do is overspend on insurance instead of taking out something you can keep long term is huge, and it does build a lot of trust. Like the last thing that I want for you guys is to overstretch yourselves a little bit because you see the value. So then I'm still back on their side, like, oh, you guys didn't know the value. The last thing I want to do is to overspend for a short window of time and realize it was a little much, and then you get rid of it, and then something happens without anything. Right. That is huge. Let's do draft dates.
Yes.
Do you want to start with like the early part of the month?
Yeah. All right. So like if give me an example.
So, hey, I'm on Social Security. I get paid the 3rd, and your appointment's on the 5th of the month. And they're like, yeah, this is awesome. I really needed this to start next month because I already spent my paycheck.
Okay. And I'm going to say, all right, so we're in that situation. I'll say, Easton, do I have your permission to be honest with you today?
Yep.
Okay. Today's the 5th. You got paid on the 3rd. Is that right? You said you needed to get it started next month. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that because, Easton, you don't have the money or you just don't want to spend the money this month?
I don't want to spend it.
You don't want to spend. I get you, dude. I don't want to go to the dentist either. But you want to have insurance, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm not going to sit here and make you think you're going to die tomorrow. Okay. But I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen different things happen. I've seen it happen. And is it worth $43 to go into next month for you? And if it is, we can revisit this, and I'll come back next month, dude, because I don't really feel that crazy comfortable with you having it and choosing not to spend it. So would it be back if I came back next month, or do you want to do it today?
No, I could make it work.
Okay, let's do it today.
Sweet.
You know, and now that can go different ways. You know, like that can go a different way. Now, let's go with the person who says they don't have it. Okay? It's the 3rd, it's the 5th, and now they don't have it, right?
Yep.
Because the guy who has it, they're just there's a difference. They just have it. They just, and be honest, I wasn't strong when I started, so I wouldn't do that before. So they'd say, I don't want to spend it. I have it, but I don't want to. Or I wouldn't even ask. They would just say, can I start this next month? And I would go, yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, you can. Does that make sense? So be clear, there's levels to that response, right? Because there's no response. There's the yes response of yes, you can do it. There's challenging it a little bit, like we just did. But then there's also respond, you don't have it. Like, so it's the 5th, Easton. You say me, you don't have the money, or you just don't want to spend the money.
So you want me to be the client
you're
still?
You're the client now. You're still the client.
Oh, I don't have it.
You don't have it at all.
I don't have it at all.
All right, Easton. This is I have your permission to be honest with you, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Today's the 5th, and you got paid on the 3rd. This premium is $68 a month, and you don't have $68 in that account. No?
No.
No. Okay. Do you have any money in that account?
Barely.
Barely.
Barely enough to eat.
Okay, so your beneficiary is your daughter. Okay. We should probably call her and let her know that you're getting insurance and that she's probably going to have to help you keep this going. Does she know that you're getting insurance for her?
No.
Because the only insurance, Easton, that's really going to matter is the one that's paid for. And if it's the first month and you got to wait 30 days to pay for it, I'm not saying you're that bad with your money and stuff, but who's to say over the next 12 months, 36 months, 48, like there's a long time before you die.
Yeah.
Like if you miss one of these payments, like, so I think you need somebody to help you out with this. So can we call your beneficiary and see if they'll help you out pay for this?
I like that a lot. Yes, would be my answer.
You know, like let's get out of the role play real quick, because this is where we got to not be so thirsty for the sale. Okay, and really start going like, is this really gonna? I want to help Easton. I want to help them, right? But I also know they're gonna need some help keeping this thing afloat, right? And if they go, well, no, we don't want. Okay, well then now it's all right. So $68 is too much then. All right, we got 10 grand. All right, I understand you want to be buried, but you know what? If they get $5 maybe they don't have to take out as much to bury you. But it's also something that's in force for you. So Easton, does $34 fit better than 68?
Dude, yes. Yeah, so some help is always better than none is a great place to start.
Let's start there, okay? Because so you have two situations. So you have the person who doesn't have the money, they just don't have enough, or you have the person who doesn't have the money and they're just really bad with their money, okay? And we have to help them all, So that would be my response with those two.
I like it too. And if you don't have the money on the 5th and you get paid on the 3rd, like, how is this going to work out next month anyway?
Right.
You know, and like, hey, maybe it is just a little bit. And I don't think that people normally blow through their entire check. They're uncomfortable because the insurance payment's a little high. Right. So like, dude, if you can't pay for it now, how are you going to pay for it the 5th of next month? You know, well, if you take it out of I know, but if we take it out on the 3rd of next month, then you're still going to be in the problem where you're at the 5th with even less money.
Right.
You know, so why don't we just tweak it a little bit to give you some instead of none? Like that's big. Well, let's keep on time here, dude. We'll wrap up, but I love it. Thanks so much for coming in and
Absolutely, dude.
and throwing some objections back and forth. I
It's been
appreciate
fun.
you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
brother.
you, dude.
Thank you, guys.